I funded my first duplex almost entirely from tips I made working as a restaurant server. It started as supplemental income after college, and a handful of years later became the financial backbone that got me off my feet and into the business and investing world. But do I recommend it as a way to get started for other aspiring entrepreneurs and real estate investors out there? Hang tight. I'm going to give you the 4 key elements to consider about the service industry. Some are going to be big advantages, and some you might want to be careful about. Then I'll wrap it up with my final verdict. I've spent 9 years and made thousands of dollars as a waiter, one tip at a time, and I've got a lot of insight to share on how well it does or doesn't mix with becoming an entrepreneur and investor. Some of these points I'm going to make may make you pause and think. The first key element of the service industry is the type of work hours. For most places, if you want to make the best volume of money in this industry, you know what that includes. Some evenings, weekends, event days, holidays. The con is yes, that means social and recreational sacrifices. However, consider the pro to that. First off, I bet you'll spend less money on leisure, and you're probably not missing out on as much as you think. You can always structure it to give yourself certain nights off weekly. That's what I did. And hopefully you can also request off in advance for something important. But here's the best part. You can earn a full week's worth of income and still keep your weekday daylight hours free. This is underrated if you plan to combine it with a day job, professional development opportunity, business building, or house hunting. It's very compatible with learning and assisting in a real estate related field. I'll get into that more another time and another video on how that helped me accelerate my ability to earn and learn. The second aspect regarding the type of work hours to consider is that you'll often be getting off late at night. Restaurant versus bar, this could be anywhere from 9 to 10 p.m. or 2 to 3 a.m. I was on the earlier end of that at a restaurant, but I still found it hard to get to bed before midnight. By the time I got off work, I often still needed to commute back home, eat a late dinner, shower, and prep for my next day, and that's an easy 2 hours right there. So from there, something's got to give. At times, it's the amount of sleep, especially for me on days where I had to be up at 6 a.m. the next morning to teach. Other days, it's the wake up time, which could mean the opportunity to get things accomplished the next day at a reasonable hour. The biggest way to overcome this is through elite time structuring, both in choosing your restaurant schedule and blocking out time for sleep, and the other things you still need to get accomplished in a week. I'll get deeper into that as well in a future video because it was so important to me making everything work together to be able to do that. So as you can see, the type of hours is a mix of pros and cons. There are some sacrifices that usually need to be made, but it's also something that I feel like can be a lot more pro with elite time structuring and proper perspective. The second key element of the service industry to consider is the type of income. For me as a server, it was 100% tips. Almost every paycheck was a grand total of $0, with the standard measly $2.83 hourly wage being completely taxed out of every paycheck. When this is the case, there's nothing more important than choosing the right restaurant that is going to reliably provide you the opportunity for the best tips possible. I have a future video planned to deep dive into what to look for when choosing. But for the sake of this overview, just understand that this means the pro is an uncapped ceiling and the con is that the floor is literally zero. If you're at a well-functioning place that provides a reliable volume of business, quality guests, higher end menu prices and combine that with a strong work ethic and a developed server skill set, the results can be magical. That dollar per hour on average can beat many corporate entry level positions and beyond. And the part I always loved was once the people are sitting in front of me, I had an element of control over my financial outcome, which is good if you're good at your job. That's exactly what you want. The flip side is if the restaurant is highly dysfunctional, pulls in low quality guests, has poor or unreliable volume, and or low menu prices, then you literally might do better working somewhere minimum wage, or worse yet, be out of a job in a month or two because the place shuts down. The restaurant and bar industry is notoriously volatile, and this is why it is so crucial to choose your spot well. Like I said, stay tuned for a video to come on that. Now, being a tipped employee often means inconsistent income. For some places, that can mean $200 one shift, $300 another. For places with more erratic volume, that could literally mean $100 one day and $500 another. If you don't learn to be organized and responsible with your financial tracking and spending, it's possible to get lost and in financial trouble no matter how much you make in a month. On a future video, I'll deep dive how I stayed organized in my tracking and diligent with my spending to never miss a single bill or payment of any kind for 9 years. The last part that I need to mention is that it is more difficult for a tipped employee to qualify for a conventional loan or one that requires a proof of income. Most institutions want to see a 1 to 2 year history to be able to make a monthly, yearly average before lending. So don't plan on taking a serving job and qualifying for an FHA loan 3 months later. It takes time, but I'm living proof that it is possible. And keep in mind, if you're only going to claim 75% of your tips, you're not going to qualify for the same loan as if you claimed a 100%. More taxes owed or a higher loan amount, you can't have both. So as you can see, there is a vast expanse of ways this type of income can be superior or be a massive letdown. But with proper restaurant selection and the development of some key budgeting skill sets, I see it overall as a big strength over many other entry-level options. The third key element of the restaurant bar industry to consider are the transferable skills it provides. On the surface, one may say, how the heck is waiting tables or making cocktails going to help me as a business owner or investor? To make the connections, you have to look below the surface. Again, I'll deep dive on this in the future. I'll list though a few for you now. The ability to walk up and start a conversation with strangers and navigate through the dialogue and conversation can translate to business networking. Suggestively selling teaches psychological principles that translate to business negotiation and sales. The ability to manage high-stress environments and multitask is valuable for operating in similar situations under time constraints in the investor realm. As mentioned earlier, the need to track inconsistent income and budget expenses also translates very well with being a business owner and investor. There's more. These situations, are they going to perfectly translate and prepare you? Probably not, but it's introducing you to the core skills required and building valuable experience and reference points that will come in handy later. Who's going to have the better training? The hustling server or the guy that sits at a desk and plays games on his phone for $10 an hour full time? I'll let you decide on that. The fourth and final key element of the restaurant/bar industry to consider is the direct exposure to the public. I see this as an overwhelmingly positive thing for ongoing or future business and investing successes. First off, like it or not, it's important for you to be able to interact and navigate through effective conversations with people of all kinds. This industry builds that skill. You're not going to be able to completely avoid interaction with people and build a successful business. You need to train it up. Second, it can bring people directly to you that can provide business connections. First off, always maintain focus on providing great service first and never solicit. But if I see a guy wearing a shirt that says blank blank contracting, or I overhear two agents discussing a listing, you better believe I'm bringing up that topic with them when I have a spare moment. I've also stumbled upon conversations that have provided property leads. Never underestimate a person, as you never know who can provide value to your real estate business just by looking at them. Be opportunistic when possible. The final point on being immersed around the public is the ability to learn about your city or community. Again, this can only happen if you ask questions and listen. I found out about new developments coming to town. I've got positive and negative buzz about different communities and neighborhoods. I've learned about local tips and trends just by having conversations. These are valuable. And if you get a lot of people traveling, that provides an opportunity to gain national reference points that you can compare with your own hometown. It all adds up, it's all valuable, and it's a big advantage over jobs where you're in isolation. Okay, you've heard all 4 of my key elements to consider if you're a current or aspiring entrepreneur/investor and considering the service industry to provide you a source of income while you build yourself up. So, do I recommend it or not? My final verdict is if you choose the right restaurant or bar for robust income, if you can learn to budget your money and time, and if you can handle the sacrifice of some holidays, nights, and weekends, then yes, it can be a great choice. Boosted by an uncapped dollar per hour earning potential, the ability to keep your weekday daylight hours clear to be redirected effectively, the transferable skills it gives you, and the exposure to the people in your local community. It can be physically taxing and sometimes unglamorous work, but it gave me the foundation for where I am today, and I am thankful for that. So if you have any questions or you want any recommendations, I'm here for you. Don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for listening to the video.